All right, so guys, I had recently posted a video of how to replace brake pads on the rear of a 2018 Mazda 3. One thing I left out that somebody just was nice enough to comment on, I didn't cover anything about putting the vehicle into electronic parking brake maintenance mode. So out of an abundance of caution, I wanted to make sure other users who watch my video do this correctly. So I'm adding this as a quick rev update to my video, and I'm going to repost it now with this included information. Turn ignition on. Gas pedal to the floor. Push down on the brake, the electronic brake. Turn ignition off, and then immediately push it back on. Okay, so that worked, right? So now all of a sudden you can see the P in parentheses, and that tells you you've entered maintenance mode. So now you can chock your front wheels behind them so that your car is safe and doesn't roll, and you can start to jack up the rear of the vehicle, and you can start to disassemble your brake calipers and replace the pads or rotors. Okay. All right, so time to change the brake pads on my 2018 Mazda 3 Sport. So important to know, it has the electronic parking brake, so it's got a little bit more complication here than a normal simple mechanical style parking brake. So that means basically you got your brake line coming in here, and you've got an electronic connection to control the electronic brake. So I've got my breaker bar. I've already put my 13mm socket on there, and I'm gonna start by breaking loose 2 bolts, okay, on the caliper, and that's pretty much it. So I hope you can see this okay. I used the wire brush to clean up around the bolts a little bit already before I started filming. So let's see here. Okay. So with these, once you break it a little bit loose, you're still gonna have to get a socket, or I'm sorry, a adjustable wrench or some other wrench onto the other side here to prevent it from spinning. All right, so we got that. So now we're going to use this adjustable wrench. Okay, so we'll set that aside. I didn't know that, so it's got a Torx bit on it. Okay, that's cool. I didn't see that before. Doesn't help you per se, other than the fact that it gives you more flexibility in your tools, which is always good, I think. Okay, so we should be loose now. Yes, we are. That's great. So now this caliper should sort of slide off the pads. Okay. I'm try to clean that up with the wire brush real quick. Okay, so then carefully set the caliper to the side. It's not always super easy to find a way to do that, but usually they design these, there's a way that it kind of sits there, so kind of like that. Next step is to remove the pads from both sides of the rotor. Now you might just be able to pry the pad right off here. So in my case, I think I definitely went a little too long without changing these pads. Okay, so in my case, I did a bad thing, and I have completely worn down my brake pad, and this was essentially steel to steel, which is always terrible. So that's why I was getting a little bit of noise back here. I think I caught it sort of early. It's definitely sort of removed some material on the rotor, so that's bad. We'll put the new pads on. We'll see if the noise goes away. We'll see if my braking performance is okay. If it's not okay, I'll pay for a new set of rotors, or you could have these machined down miles. And I almost never use my brakes. I do a lot of engine braking with my manual transmission. Yeah, I mean, my goal when I'm driving is to never touch my brakes. I obviously do use them, but I try hard not to. Try to time the lights, and anyway, but that's not very far. 26,000 on a pair of brakes is not very impressive to me. Okay, so on the interior, we do have a little bit of surface left there. So on the exterior, it's gone. On the interior, you can see there's still a little bit of pad, like 1/8 of an inch. So that's good. That means we're only hurting the rotor on the one side. Still not good, but anyway. All right, so let's use our wire brush again. Let's clean up around here so that our new ones fit in pretty good. Your rotor should spin freely without any noise or issues. Let's see here. Now hopefully when I put the new pads on, after giving a little test drive, I might be able to get some of this rust off just from the friction of the new pads, but we'll see. Rust is normal on rotors. I mean, if you check your rotor just after one day, oftentimes the dew from overnight will rust them. And that's normal, and you just use the brakes and the rust goes away, and it's normal stuff. I went to AutoZone. I think these are like $40 for the rears and then $40 for the fronts. So anyway, these are the mid-tier. They're the ceramic brake pads. Bosch, turns out, is the one who makes these for AutoZone. Okay, so there is a difference. The one in my right hand, you can see, has 2 extra features. It's got a little nipple there and a nipple here, and sort of metal piece there. I'm not sure. So let me check the instructions again and see what it tells us about that. Looking at the ones I pulled off, the interior, which is also denoted by the piston pressure point marks there, has this piece here. So we'll make sure that we put that on the interior. So this one, or this thing here. Okay. So let's see. Slide this boy in here. I'm gonna softly use my mallet here. Okay, I'm no expert, but that's my tough love approach. So that's in there. That's where we wanted it. You probably can't see that super well, but it's seated flat against the rotor. But that's it's a good fit. So let's get this other side. Should be able to see a little better. And again, I'm going to try to be as gentle as I can. Okay. We got no wobble, we're nice and flat. So I think we're good. So the spring clips are in place. So that's from the alternate view. I can still spin. I know it's going to be tight because of how thick they are to start, but it's what we want. Nice thick material ready to help me brake. Okay, so I won't lie to you, this next part I've discovered kind of sucks. So this stage is where we're going to compress the piston, and with the electronic parking brake mechanism, what I've found, and I really don't know if I'm doing this at all in an ideal way, but I'm going to alternate with compression, and then I'm going to switch to channel locks and rotation clockwise. I'll show you in a minute. But so that's our piston. So that's what applies hydraulic force, squeezing the brake pads together to stop the vehicle. Now, because I just put thicker pads on, I need to get this piston back into its sleeve there more, at least like a centimeter. So I'm going to push on here, and then I'm going to rotate clockwise. I'm going to spin this cylinder. So I don't know how well I can show you that, but let me show you the compression stage first. You can use kind of whatever you got. I happen to have this wood clamping set that seemed to work okay. So let's see here if I can show you this. Now I'm going to compress, and maybe I only get 1 millimeter. Yeah, hardly any movement, but this is the game. Okay, you get your channel locks around this piston. Careful of the boot. You don't want to hurt the rubber if you can avoid it. Rotating, rotating, rotating. Alright, now let's compress again. Okay, another millimeter or two. Set that down. Get in there with some more rotation. Rotating, rotating, rotating. Compression. Okay. Got another millimeter. All right, so I did another maybe 15 or 16 cycles alternating between the clamping and the turning. It just barely fits, so with a new pad on. I mean, it is a tight fit. So hammered on it a little with my palm. I mean, you can see what I'm talking about. It's all the way in there now. So anyway, so that's pretty much it. I should be able to just tighten up these bolts. And we should be ready to rock and roll and try it out. So let's get our adjustable wrench and our screw, sorry, our bolts. So try not to hurt your rubber here. So you gotta tighten it only on the one side without letting the other side rotate. Okay. I'll try to sort of evenly do it. Oops. Get our breaker bar, give it the finishing touch. Okay. All right, let's go throw our lug nuts on here and give this thing a trial run. All right, and just one final note, I've got my white lithium grease on the hub here. It seemed like that really helped prevent the wheel from bonding to the hub. So next time I change to my winter tires again, I want to be able to easily get my all-season tires back off. So anyway, let's throw our boy back on here. Okay. You've seen me do this a few times, so I'm not going to record anymore. But anyway, I'm going to throw the lug nuts on. The car off. Okay. So now I'm working on my brakes. Change my pads, change my rotors maybe, and now I want my car to be drivable again. So now I'm going to follow a similar procedure. Okay. All right. So this time, turn on the ignition. So 2 button pushes, throttle to the floor, and this time pull up on the parking brake, turn off the car, and then immediately 2 button pushes. You'll hear the rear brakes activating. Perfect. So now you can see our warning light for the brake is off. I'm going to turn off my ignition. So now it should be okay. So let's reverse real quick. Yeah, okay. So that worked as we wanted. Okay. The brakes work, but let's get up a little speed and then we'll push on them a little harder to give them a little bit of wear. I want to make sure that I'm wearing out, smoothing over the driver's side rear rotor. a little bit of damage was done because that one external outside rear pad there wore down all the way to the metal. So yeah, you gotta really be disciplined. If you start hearing any kind of sounds that you don't recognize as you're driving, especially as you're braking, that's exactly what that sound is. That means your pad is worn out and you are now starting to have metal on metal contact, i.e. you are damaging your rotor and therefore damaging part of your car. I mean, rotors are not expensive, whether you're replacing them or turning them, but still, save yourself the money, catch it early enough, avoid the damage, and yeah, that's it. So I think our brake pad replacement was successful. Finish doing my test drive here, and we'll call it a day.